Super Mind Stretchers. That's got a charm to it.
It is nice to see you. It's you and me. And I was just thinking, when I say you and me, no one's going to know who that is.
No.
It's Ben. That's me.
Ben Crisp.
Yeah. And you are?
Thomas Crisp.
I don't even think we need both of us here because I do think our voices are very similar. And now I'm curious that we don't have the Brendan mic set up. We don't have the Brendan or the Brendan mic set up.
Or his voice is a differentiator.
Yeah, that's right. As a baffle between our two similar...
I think we'll manage to baffle ourselves,
baffling voices. Well, it hasn't just been you and me on the mics for quite some time, since our radio days. And that's where this whole thing started, of like me thinking, it's a bit absurd having two brothers with two pretty similar voices on the mic.
I've been told by at least one listener that our voices didn't sound too similar to them.
So that's what I'm really curious about then, because, and I'm guessing that's probably someone who does know us. What would you like? I was trying to think, how would I do an impression of your voice?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's trying to do you. And, okay. Yep. It just turns into a Muppet, though.
Okay. I'll take that.
I've never tried it before until right then. I thought I'd try it on
I used to look very much like a Muppet. Maybe I can't remember back in the radio show days. Did I have the long hair like down to... I used to have quite long hair.
It wasn't 90s, but you had the sort of 90s
mop
indie
kind of...
Yeah, you looked like you could be the bass player in an indie band.
Yeah. I'll take Muppet.
Which Muppet, though?
I
wonder who the bass player was
in like the band.
The Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem.
Right, because we all know Dr. Teeth, he was keys, right?
Yeah.
And then Animal was drums.
I don't know if Janice on bass.
Oh, Janice.
I reckon it was Janice with a beanie that kind of covers her eyes and then like long blonde hair. So
I'm wearing a beanie right now, so yeah, I'll take Janice.
You are. Is that a Cake beanie?
It is. From the band Cake from Sacramento, California.
Love a bit of Cake. Did we talk on mic about the Cake story? About the fact that...
What was the Cake story?
This is, again, podcasts about other podcasts.
Yeah.
There was a podcast I listened to and they talked about how Cake had a song that popped up on Spotify after years and years.
That's right. And it was attributed to someone else because this was like the naming conventions or whatever on Spotify.
Well, it was attributed to Cake, the Sacramento band, but it was this Russian singer or Russian rapper.
Right.
And so like there was a bunch of theories of like, is Cake back after how many, 15, 20 years or whatever with just this weird Russian kind of collab? And then so as you'd expect, there was this Russian rapper doing a collab with another Russian like MC who styled themselves as Cake, but then the Spotify algorithm just kind of merged those two records, and then it was more about how difficult it is to undo something like that on Spotify.
Right.
And you'd think, well, I would think you're a tech guy, you run a tech company, but I'm not I would think that someone would just be sitting at a desk at Spotify offices and would just be able to remove the thing from the Excel spreadsheet or whatever. But it's like way more complicated than that.
Or it's like that would happen if that person happened to be a Cake fan. Like I think if either someone knows someone or it's just like a happenstance thing. Otherwise, it's not on their radar at all.
And on this podcast, they interviewed the Russian guy, and the charm of it was that he'd never heard of Cake before. He's like, oh yeah, we did get a lot more hits on that song. We just weren't sure if people just really like that song or something. There's a charm to that. I'd like to think that Cake would think that was kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like they'd look into those funny cross contamination parts of the universe where there's accidental meetings of things. Which I want to know though, which Muppet would you be? Or are you?
I'm wearing glasses these days, and I've got a mustache these days. So what's like?
Oh yeah, you've got a bit of a distinct character look now.
There was a blue Muppet from Sesame Street that had kind of a bushy brown mustache. He had like a bald blue head and a big brown mustache.
This wasn't like Grover Alter Ego or something, was it?
Maybe it was Grover with a mustache or something like that. See, that's, we could just do that. We could do two different Muppets, and that's how we differentiate ourselves.
I could just do Grover all night, and then you could do
Janice, which I don't know how she sounds.
Janice talks like this, man. She's like a hippie.
Oh, yeah.
Hippie, man. I love the Muppets, and I love the Electric Mayhem, the Muppets band. They're an awesome band.
That's a cool name as well, Electric Mayhem.
Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, because they are like a super group. Because I guess it's like, I don't know enough of my Muppet lore, but I think Dr. Teeth is like Dr. John, I reckon.
Okay.
And then Janice, I think, is Janis Joplin, I guess.
Right,
although she wasn't a bass player, but I think they were just trying to like flesh out the band with like different archetypes. And I've heard people say that Ralph, the dog, was like a Tom Waits.
Oh, okay.
But he like, how does he do his voice? He's like, I can only think of it when he sings a song. You can't live with him. You can't live without him. Like it's not a Tom Waits voice that Ralph's doing, but like this kind of like lounge singer, piano player, laconic kind of dog. This is going back probably even further than the Curiosity Show, though. So I don't even know where your Muppet connection is. Because I grew up with Rainbow Connection.
My Rainbow Connection. See, I didn't really even know what Rainbow Connection was until much later in life.
Okay.
I think. I didn't know what that song was.
I sing that song every night to my boys.
I think until I saw The Office, actually. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But grew up with Sesame Street, so I was definitely familiar with the Muppets. And then definitely saw Muppets Christmas Carol on TV many times. In fact, just rewatched that this year, that and Muppet Treasure Island.
Yep. Tim Curry.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Both really fun.
You know that quote where they say that Michael Caine is in Muppets Christmas Carol playing Scrooge, and Tim Curry's playing Long John Silver.
Yep.
And they say that Michael Caine is playing it as though all the Muppets are humans, and that he is basically doing Shakespeare with a bunch of like serious actors, which works so well. I reckon it's one of my favorite Michael Caine performances. You could
definitely tell that. Yeah.
Definitely my favorite like Muppet movie. And one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite Christmas movie, Muppets Christmas Carol.
I can't remember
such a good telling of that.
If it's
story.
in that one or if it's in Treasure Island when the band. Because I think the band is in both of them.
Yeah,
but they hype up as if they're going to do a big heavy song, and then they just kind of go into some jazz. I can't remember which one though it's in now.
So the other half of that quote is so Michael Caine is playing it like all the Muppets are other human thespians, and Tim Curry is playing it like he is a Muppet amongst Muppets.
Right, interesting.
Which I like that kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's a bit
Tim Curry played
life.
every role like he was a Muppet.
Okay, yeah.
Whether it was a Muppet movie or not.
Yeah.
So how do they stand up for you then? So did you find the Muppets later in life? That, I guess, is the question.
They were just always around.
Okay.
So it wasn't like finding them. And I think I would say I don't have a very special connection with them. I think it's more
don't have what you might call a rainbow connection.
No. Again, so I still don't understand what this rainbow thing is.
It's a lesser known cake song.
Yeah.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows and what's on the other side? I'd listen to a cake version.
Yeah,
I'd listen to a cake version of most things.
Yeah. I didn't. I'd say Muppets was a bit like The Simpsons in a way that there were lots of references crammed into just those two movies.
Yeah,
where I was like, oh yeah, I heard about that thing on the Muppets.
It's like Monty Python or something, isn't it? It's like it's a gateway for all these other kind of adult concepts that are like snuck into,
because they threw so many little gags in
way more so
cultural
in the Muppets,
reference points.
Like then I think Disney movies and things like that took a while. I feel like pre-90s Disney movies weren't so cheeky in terms of like slipping stuff in for the grown-ups in the audience.
Right.
And now that's just bread and butter. It's like in Pixar and Disney and DreamWorks, it's all naughty jokes or like bizarre politics jokes and things like that that go way over
or direct references to old movies.
But the Muppets felt like they were doing that for a long time. And the Muppets is funny, isn't it? Because you've got like your gateway to the Muppets is like Sesame Street usually for kids. Yeah. So you're sort of aware of the Muppets because of, Kermit and Elmo and Oscar the Grouch and stuff are there on Sesame Street with humans. But then the Muppet Show, have you ever actually gone back and watched like the 1970s Muppet Show?
No, I think I've just seen some clips. I know the intro music and like kind of the vibe of the show, but never watched a whole episode. I don't think.
Man, that would be so interesting to know, because I don't think I've read Jim Henson's biography, and I think one of the things that struck me was like he never wanted to make stuff for kids.
Right.
Which is really interesting to think of, like puppets and puppeteering. And he was that like 60s, 70s hippie of like, that was his art form, but it wasn't meant to be for kids. It was meant to be like puppeteering and as its own art. I kind of imagine that, like, this is going to be another bad reference for you, I'm sure. I'm terrible at, like, I've got no references that kind of, I'm sure would connect. You haven't seen Being John Malkovich, have you?
No, I haven't.
John Cusack's character in that is like, wants to be like a serious puppeteer and be taken seriously as a puppeteer. Yeah. Anyway, but like that's kind of this Jim Henson vibe, I feel. And so then when the opportunity came to do Sesame Street, he was kind of not so sure about it. But if you go and watch the Muppet Show, that's like, now I guess it's probably tame, but it's like, it is a show for grown-ups. Like, it's not really a kids show.
Right.
More in the sense that it's just bizarre. Like, it's too weird, I think, for kids. It's very like 70s avant-garde. And it's like, have you seen the Star Wars holiday special?
No, I think I've heard of this, yeah.
So that, if people haven't heard of it, is like, now it's pretty readily available. It was, for a long time, it was this kind of like, not even urban legend, because it exists, but the Star Wars film, the original, like 1977 film, came out, and before they did the sequel, before they did The Empire Strikes Back, George Lucas got offered or got asked or ended up kind of roped into doing a variety TV special.
Yeah, right.
Because that was the thing to do back then, right? No one had ever had such a big success in terms of a feature film. But feature films, you know, back in the 70s is like, well, how does the big machine keep on keeping the content fresh in the audience's mind?
Someone would be like, oh, that's Star Wars. Oh, we got to get them on the variety thing.
And it's like, so you guys have got to do like a TV special. But in the 70s, a TV special was like variety. It was like you bring on a song and dance act, and then you do a piece, and then you do something. It is so bizarre.
Yeah.
If you've not seen it before, it's mostly cast with. So it's got Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford is in it as well. It's some of the most bizarre Harrison Ford you'll ever see, because he's still just Harrison Ford doing his Harrison Ford thing.
Yeah.
Super low res old 1970s television on a soundstage. But like the other guest stars are like B. Arthur from like the Golden Girls, like other TV 1970s stars. Like TV personalities of the day doing the most strange sketches and just very long musical numbers.
Yeah, I have in my mind, like maybe if I've seen either frames or clips of it, like, you know, like Wookiees dancing.
Yeah,
and like
Jefferson Starship, I'm pretty sure does like at least one whole song.
Oh, okay, more. Wow. Man, that'd be trippy.
But the point is, the Muppet Show is sort of like that. Like, it's very much that variety vibe. It just happens to be all populated by Muppets. And it's being done as though it's in a theater with the audience full of Muppets.
Yeah.
But then in my mind, growing up as a kid, and I'd seen some of the Muppet Show on TV and stuff like that, and I don't know if they just used to show one-off episodes maybe when I was a kid, but in my head I was like, yeah, they used to have people like John Cleese and people like that on, Steve Martin and really cool people like that. I swear, I reckon John Cleese and Steve Martin are probably the only two guests out of the 40-odd episodes of the original Muppet Show that like you would even know who they were.
Right.
Like,
so they listed them all then in that little list. I love it when that happens. It's like, oh, so many. It's like this and this. And it's like, those are the two things.
It'll be like, some like vaudeville. For starters, like all the TV stars back then were in their like 50s or 60s for some reason. You just don't associate that with the modern era.
Sure.
It's kind of like people were excited to see someone who'd been around in Hollywood or in the entertainment industry for years and years, for decades and decades.
So familiar, I guess.
Yeah. Or maybe there was just more respect for the fact that this person has been around for a long time doing this thing.
Sure.
Which, like, that's not a bad thing. Like, surely that's what it should be like. Like now it's all about what's the next big hit thing. But back then it was like, I don't know why I keep going back to B. Arthur. I love B. Arthur. It's just, she's just such a funny reference point for like a 1970s television celebrity that would be exciting to see on a television special. I think put her alongside the Star Wars cast or the Muppets, because I'm pretty sure she co-starred on the Muppets.
She would be happy to go along with anything. I find it interesting as we've gone along with this podcast that you and I only differ in age by 4 years.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there's actually quite a big gap in our cultural reference points.
Yeah, because I grew up on television reruns and like VHS like videos borrowed from either the library or the video shop. And you were much more, I think, a kid and a teenager and then an adult of the kind of the digital revolution, I would say.
Yeah. I remember going on computers, I guess. Like the computers were always in our house. We were lucky that, Dad got to bring home a spare computer or whatever it was from work. And so that was like an Apple II or whatever. I can't remember what one of the first.
Classic or something,
Mac
I think.
Classic,
Yeah.
Where you had like the floppy disk
in
the machine, and then you had to have a separate floppy disk drive just to be able to like play anything.
That's
or
my
do
impression
anything.
of the noise of when the Mac
Yep. Just do it again. Do it again. Yeah, that takes me back. And TV wise, I mean, yeah, I remember having just the sort of 5 channels and looking at the TV guide and all of that. I'm just trying to think. Like,
do you remember a TV that you had to walk over and turn the knob to change the channel?
Yes, but pretty early, I reckon. So I was born.
That's also because we lived in a house in the 90s that was like decked out from the 70s, right? So it's like we still lived in the family home that was like orange and green kitchen with the brown 1-inch tiles and
sort of like an archway.
Yeah, brown wood paneling in the living room.
Big thick curtains.
Yeah, real thick theater curtains.
Yeah.
With like a
those were awesome, actually.
Yeah.
I have good memories because we used to. There was a. Now I'm probably going to get all the distances wrong because I was a kid, so it's actually probably much smaller than I thought.
That hallway that went on for about 3 kilometers.
Yeah. But there's the hallway that led to the kitchen, and as you're walking towards the kitchen, you'd turn right, and there was was it an arch or was that just a squared off? That was where the big heavy curtains were to get into the living room.
Yep.
And we had. I'm not sure if we always had it like this, but the couch was basically right in front of the curtains. So if you came in through the curtains, you sort of then had to get around.
Straight into the couch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There was never quite a feng shui in our sort of, childhood.
That made it so exciting because you could jump through the curtains onto the couch or vice versa.
Totally.
Probably knock out mum or dad and
it was Indiana Jones style.
Cause injuries. But yeah.
Yeah. And we definitely had a little bit of the Von Trapp family style, like, song and dance as a family with those curtains.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You'd open the curtains and do a little show and then close them again. Were you ever of like the cassette recorder times? Yeah,
yes.
Okay. We may have also touched on that on the pod as well, but like sending back and forth the cassette tape to our cousins on the East Coast. And, we'd they'd send back, and this is the violin concerto that, your cousin has learnt, and here's a poem that someone wrote in year 6, and then we'd send back Monty Python sketches that were acting out of a thing, and then like fart noises and knock jokes that we'd read out of a book.
Yeah.
Just to kind of signify the difference in the two sides of the family.
How cool though, like an audio letter.
Yeah. But then and we just tape over it. It would just be the same tape going back and forth. So it's not like it was ever kind of kept. It was very, what's
ephemeral.
The word? Ephemeral. Oh,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you brought that word in. That was right there. This is going to be, I'm glad we've got a large family because this is going to be a very specific bit of nostalgia. We went way beyond. Do you remember this era down to do you remember that, like the wainscoting and in our hallway where there used to be that little knot in the wood down the side there?
All anyone needs to know who's listening, who's not part of the family though, is that it was a magical place with a magical group of people.
Absolutely.
Like a TV show. It was...
Yeah. You can see why your life, when you look back at it, starts to turn into one of those like old television opening scenes. And just like seeing, I think I just started humming the Bluey theme then.
Oh, really? But in an old style.
I was picturing the San Francisco aerials of everywhere you look, everywhere. Yeah.
See, that's interesting. See, I have some references, and then I feel like there was maybe a critical age where I think you got more into TV and film and
maybe, yeah,
and probably sought out more stuff and got more into it. Whereas I think for me, a lot of it was just like whatever kind of hit my eyeballs.
Yeah.
I don't think I was.
You were definitely cooler than me, though, which every younger person is than every older person. But like, you were more plugged into the music and the things of the time. I was always very retro and very backwards looking in terms of like, even still now, my reference points are all old music, old films, old TV shows. And like before nostalgia was the in thing, I think. I was into nostalgia before it was cool, man.
I guess that's interesting because we both sort of, in some sense, grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I'd say I'm much more of a 90s.
In a very literal sense.
Very literal. Very literal.
There's not really another sense that we could take that.
I was born in 1990, so I definitely, all of my growth for the first 10 years.
We were both alive through the entirety of the decade of the 90s, yeah.
Confirm. I shouldn't shortchange myself. I should just say it with clarity. But I would say I'm more of a 90s kid than you in that sense. Like you're sort of saying, a lot of your
and I'm more
reference
of like an
points
1890s kid.
1890s. What are your 1890s? No, I didn't have to do that. I was a young kid. I just like watched you do that.
Yeah, but like that was definitely. I mean, like you say, shortchanged. I was definitely like of that last generation of like liking. Comic books and Monty Python and computers and stuff when it would just get you beaten up rather than be like a really cool in thing that was like very generation now.
I feel like that must have changed in the 4 years because I always looked up to you in that way. And I always thought like you, I don't know if you mind me divulging this, you made a cool spy book, like a secret agent handbook, written by yourself, like with stuff stuck in and codes and ciphers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, actually, even our older brother made that, and I just inherited it and added to it.
Excuse me, Mike.
That kind of got handed down. Yeah,
Mike made that, our brother.
But no, absolutely.
Well, there you go. That kind of
borrowing the Usborne Book of Spying and the Usborne Book of Detective work from the library and copying down how to do secret codes. Codes were so big, loomed so large in like puzzle books of the time.
And the way that you would joke and do Monty Python sketches and all of that, I just think was so cool. And I think maybe it just didn't, I didn't do it as much because I didn't know how or anything like that. But yeah, I feel like going through school, I didn't hit any of those issues of those things being sort of particularly looked down upon. But that was definitely going to school in the 2000s. I think that's when things shifted.
I think there was a bit of a shift. Not for nothing, kind of went to probably a bit of a rougher public school than you as well. Yeah. But like, not that I do think there was a cultural shift as well, though. And it was funny. It was definitely the tech thing influenced a lot of stuff. I didn't have like a phone or anything like that, but you wouldn't know that, I reckon, either, would you?
Not until late high school.
Yeah.
I have this list that I like wrote. I'm very nerdy with lists and stuff like that, but I love knowing when different things came out in my life, particularly technological. So like, when did broadband sort of start to exist? When did MySpace come out? When did Facebook, YouTube, and some of these biggest ones, like the biggest apps and things like that are sort of everywhere now. I'm glad that I went through most of high school without them. So Facebook only, MySpace was around when I was in early high school.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I feel like some people have very strong memories of putting stuff on MySpace and I just mustn't have really gotten into it. Or I think what a lot of people did with MySpace in terms of customization and writing your own, HTML code to make it your own. I think I'd already done a bit of that through. I was very lucky to get early onto like things like GeoCities and
GeoCities, man.
Well, like playing around with like Homestar Runner website where it was very inspiring to try and like learn that stuff.
So Flash videos and things like that.
Yeah. And our brother Sam was a great content creator back in the Flash days. And I think so. So MySpace wasn't as big for me, but then Facebook technically came out while I was in high school, but didn't kind of go global until year 11 for me. So I'm just really glad that none of my schooling was on Facebook.
Totally, right? Yeah. It's such a cliche, I know, to be like, oh, God, kids these days and with the social media and the this and that. But it is true. Like, I mean, you do think, oh, God, what a nightmare to have everything sort of filmed or posted or just kind of so documented like all the time.
Do you reckon we were almost in a really nice little space of time where probably when we were growing up, adults thought, kids these days have it so easy with so many things, like with access to the internet and the early internet.
Yeah, but every generation thinks that.
But now I'm saying like we're growing up and I think the kids have it so hard with like some things. Like I'm like, oh God, I wouldn't want to grow up now.
I know what you mean. I think it just depends on what kind of person you are. And I think it's like, yeah, I would definitely find myself freaked out by like progress in the future as it comes, which is funny because I'm not a very conservative in the small c sense of the word, like, you know, person. I'm like quite a curious, open-minded person, but I just know I'm going to get blindsided by like the future. Yeah. I try and put myself back in time in my head, be like, imagine what I would have been like when like planes were invented for the first time, and I would just be like, what? That's not, you can't do it. Oh, okay. So
well, you would have had to have spoken like this.
It's like a car with wings. No, it's its own thing. It's a plane. It's like a thing that goes in the air. Okay. And then, so what, does the road go up in the sky? Is that the idea? No, Ben, it's like it takes off. Like, you've seen a bird, haven't you? Yeah. So it's like a bird with wheels, is it? No, Ben, it's just...
Forget the wheels.
This is about the level of my discourse when it comes to any other kind of emerging technology, I feel like.
Right. No, I feel like you've got both parts in your brain. You're someone who's, when we, you know, going back to radio show days again, but we'd have long discussions about technology, and you were the first one to really put into words that I understood, like I think we've talked about this on the podcast actually before, but the sort of milestones of technological advancement in terms of information and, you know, writing and these sorts of things. And I think you've got quite a good handle on technology and progress.
I think you can zoom out too far. I think that's what I do sometimes. I think you can zoom out to the point where it's no longer helpful, because I like to look back at history and time and everything and be like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, there's a time when people couldn't write, you know, words or literacy, and then, and then the Gutenberg press, and then when you could have mass print and stuff like that. And it doesn't exactly help you get through the next day of your life, but it's interesting though. Yeah.
I love it. Oh, I just realized, do we have an ability to watch a clip?
Oh, yeah, that would have been nice to plan, wouldn't it? Yeah, we do. I'm just this unprepared that I didn't get my laptop out. We can, though. This is good as well because we can rove. So I can kind of be wandering off to get the laptop so we can watch a clip. Because after all, this is Super Mind Stretches, the show where we watch clips from The Curiosity Show, which does tie in neatly. This is kind of an open tab from when I was talking about The Muppet Show, because I guess The Muppet Show and The Curiosity Show probably would have been existing around the same time. I am now wandering off. I'm now going, how would this work, though? I wouldn't be able to sync this if you were going to talk at the same time. Right. As I go wandering off to get the laptop and I leave Tom behind.
I'll try to guess when you're not speaking.
He might be talking over there and I wouldn't know now. I'm wandering off to get the laptop. I don't even have to be quiet. I'm just being quiet because it sort of feels like it's mysterious and it's adding a little bit of... maybe it could be like one of those podcasts. It's like a true crime thing. As I wandered off to get the laptop, I wondered what Tom was thinking in the other room. Would I come back? When I came back with the laptop,
can't say that.
Watched a clip from The Curiosity Show. What would he think about it?
Okay.
He's only 4 years younger, but sometimes 4 years feels like a lifetime apart.
Not for a couple of years.
And is this just what happens when Brendan is not around to kind of keep us in check? Or we'll just wander around with our phones in our hands and use them as microphones instead of the ones that Brendan would normally bring. All right, stepping over the baby gate to come back into the room.
I just threw in a bunch of different reactions and words so you can chop them and change them into your conversation with yourself.
Oh, okay. So you were anticipating that I was sort of still talking to you.
Yes.
No, I just started talking to myself.
I think a lot of my answers should just make sense still.
Yeah, good. None of mine will, but it will be fun. All right. Now, famously, you are not so familiar with, well, you're familiar with The Curiosity Show, but you don't have a lot of memories of what these clips are going to be.
Right.
So
they're all fresh.
I'm going to find one at random. Okay. It's called Why Mona Lisa Smiles and Artists' Compositions. What do you think we're going to learn in this?
Why Mona Lisa Smiles and Artists' compositions.
Why Mona Lisa smiles? When I read that, I was thinking of like eyes following you around the room, but that's got nothing to do with her smiling.
Okay. Yeah.
Does it?
No. I think they're two separate things. I've heard of the eyes following you thing, and I mean I think that is as simple, isn't it, as just that it's painted towards the flat face of a painting, and so you can view that from any
is that
angle.
what it is? I for some reason in my head it's like a thing about you've got to offset the eyes in some slight way, and it's in that same place in my mind as like the Steve Jobs next gen computer is like not quite a perfect cube, and there's like an optical illusion where if you just have them slightly offset, then your brain decides. But that is just, that's how my brain works. Just conflating completely unrelated ideas.
It would be funny if the eyes were a bit offset, so it looked like she was looking past you no matter where you were in the room. So you try to move into view and it still looks, you can just never get into a view.
Why Mona Lisa smiles?
So,
I got no idea. And now that I'm looking at the actual icon for it, I've got even less idea. It is a weird, not a pentagram. What's that? It's kind of like a square with a bunch of lines connecting the corners and then some
kind of
inscribed
a graph,
squares.
A mathematical graph.
Graph
theory graph with nodes and edges.
How is that going to relate to Mona Lisa, do you think?
I don't know. See, the smile I thought was a very, very small, like upturned lip, like, edge of a lip smile. So maybe it's something to do with very small angles. I really have no idea.
A Mona Lisa smile, when people describe someone as having a Mona Lisa smile, it's like a smile that's not a smile, right? It's like a little like...
Oh, is that a turn of phrase, is it?
I think so. It's a Julia Roberts film. I don't know. But
okay.
I thought the Julia Roberts film was named for an expression. Maybe not. Maybe it's the same thing that I'm thinking. Maybe it lives in the same place in my brain as the cube that's not quite a cube.
Right.
We've find out enough. I think let's watch.
When you go to an art gallery, people talk about the composition of the paintings, or they talk about the composition of a photograph. What do they mean? Just that things are placed to be more agreeable to the eye than they might otherwise be. What does that mean? Well, the cameraman who's filming me here isn't really happy with the shot. It's pretty boring. I'm just dead center. So he's moving the camera to make the picture a bit more interesting. Notice what's happening? He's not got me dead center anymore. I'm about a third of the way in. So is the question mark. And the division of the painting, formed by the grid and the green here, is about a third of the way up. The rule of thirds places things more interestingly if you're taking a photograph than just setting somebody right up in the middle of the rectangle. Well, for hundreds of years, artists have been interested in the geometry of form and using it in composing their pictures. For example,
Sorry, a few things we've got to start discussing already. Rob has got a Mona Lisa smile.
Yes.
Permanently. Just there's a twinkle in the eye, and I'm wondering, is this, does he think this is just a
it
big
borders
joke?
on a smirk, doesn't it?
Yeah, but a very charming.
A charming smirk.
Yeah, like not
to be sure.
Not an I'm better than you. It's a we're both better than this kind of feeling that I get from him as well. Little glance down off camera, I noticed then. He was delivering everything straight down the barrel, and then as he's looking for the change in the shot, little glance down.
Do you think he's got a monitor there?
Monitor down there, I reckon.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that he didn't move at all. But I wouldn't say he's really in the left third. He's on the edge. He's still pretty central to me.
Yeah, I wonder if this would be like 4:3. We watch it on YouTube here, but those TVs that were like so warped with this is way before flat screen television, where it's like that kind of cathode ray curved bulbous front. So I wonder
if that would have made a difference. Well, would that have made a difference to the Mona Lisa if you saw that on a bulbous?
Well, the Mona Lisa famously was originally on a cathode ray. She was something now in that flat screen in the Louvre, right? And then the classic balloony sort of squish jelly bean question mark that we've come to know and love. The Curiosity show in the background there.
And what I would call an arcade machine, Tron-esque lines, perspective lines into the background.
Yeah, vanishing perspective lines, grid, a sort of... did you ever play the 3D Tetris, where it was like looking down from above and the Tetris blocks were like falling into the screen?
Oh, that would be trippy.
Yeah. There were so many like Tetris spin-offs and rip-offs. There was like the ones with like 3D balls and things like that looked kind of like those molecule models. But yeah, this is reminding me of a how would you say that? Top-down perspective, 3D.
Yes.
If it was Tron, but you were like falling down a skyscraper or something like that.
Right.
New Tron trailer out, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not sure.
Is it a sequel?
Yeah. The fourth, I guess, sequel.
Okay.
Now. They just keep on tronning. And Rob in, just a classic heavy fabric blue.
Yeah.
Electric blue. No, not quite. A sort of it's almost safari shirt style, just without the epaulets, but no button on the pocket flap. And yet a pocket flap. That's the intriguing detail. There's always a little intriguing detail to this man's fashion. And what do you call it? The button cover, right? So it's a button-down shirt.
Oh,
no
yeah.
buttons visible because of the extra flap of material in front there.
Yeah, it's very workmanlike, but neat and dressy.
Yep, heavy fabric could be good. I'd appreciate a shirt like that. I get sweaty. I'm not a good humid climate.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing this is, old tungsten studio lights.
Oh, yep.
These guys don't break a sweat. They're always cool as cucumbers.
They're pretty pro at this.
Discussing this stuff. Okay, so we're no closer to understanding the Mona Lisa smile yet, but he is talking about the rule of thirds. More interesting composition. Yep. Let's find out.
You've probably seen this picture by Leonardo da Vinci. He was fascinated by the form of the human body, and in this, he's relating it to the geometry of both the square and the circle. Now,
penis right there on television for children. Yeah, I mean it's a sketch. It's a Leonardo, but
in the name of science,
absolutely good on him. Yeah,
yep. Not afraid. Rob wouldn't be afraid.
He was responsible for a very famous painting, one of the most famous of all. It's the Mona Lisa, and no one's quite sure what she's smiling at. It's a very mysterious smile. Perhaps she knew what Leonardo had done with the background. If you see several copies of this side by side, you can see that the background is continuous. The hills and the roads and the rocks all blend from one painting to another. Perhaps that's the secret of the smile. But Leonardo did more than that. He used very geometrical constructions in setting out many of his paintings. For example, this famous fresco of the Last Supper was painted on a church wall. At first sight, you wouldn't see the geometry that underlines it. Let's do a few things with it. Let's take a diagonal from one corner to another. Notice what it does along the line of the windows. It defines where they are. A diagonal from the other side does the same thing.
He's going to start doing the Ian McKellen thing from the Da Vinci Code now and figure out that if you move people around, we're going to...
It does look like he's about to
reveal where the Holy Grail is. I think that's what we're about to find out. This is awesome.
Can we just go back to, as in not on the video, but Mona Lisa, I've heard this thing about Mona Lisa smile, and Rob says, why is she smiling? Nobody knows. And is it only noteworthy because people didn't really smile for portraits in the day?
It's enigmatic, and it's the Mona Lisa is a weird one because it's not. It only became famous after it got stolen in the 1900s. I'm pretty sure, the early 1900s. So it wasn't I don't think, other than the fact that it is by Leonardo, and that's that makes it of note. It wasn't his most intricate or his most it's not like an example of a portrait that is the benchmark for all portraits.
Right.
But I never realized this until it got stolen. That's what put it in the headlines. And I think because it got stolen, I'm going to get this story slightly wrong, but I think because it got stolen at a time when newspapers were able to print a picture of it, up until that point, it was relatively unknown. But most paintings were relatively unknown unless they were going to appear in an art book, and then you had to be interested in art and go and see a recreation of a painting.
Right.
But because it got stolen, I'm going to say maybe the 1910s or 1920s, it coincided with the technology of them being able to print the picture of the Mona Lisa in the newspaper, and then that went into international newspapers all around the world saying, this is the painting that's been stolen from the Louvre. And so then, because the person was on the run and they didn't know if the person had left France, it got sent. These newspapers got sent out all across Europe and all across America, and so that's why people started becoming aware of this painting called the Mona Lisa and being able to recognize it because it had appeared in these newspapers, and people were like, "Oh, have you seen the Mona Lisa?" And then it got returned, but then it got recovered, but then I think it also got stolen once more And so once again, the cycle of the Mona Lisa has been stolen, this painting that now everyone knew about and also kind of knew what it looked like, I think just like cemented it into the culture as like one of the world's most famous paintings. Can you think of a painting or an image that people would more readily recognize? I can't think of one.
No, I feel like in at least the English-speaking world, it's the most famous painting. But so you say enigmatic. Is that your? Do you feel when you see it?
That's subjective. That's just me. Yeah,
okay,
I don't know. I think
because I've heard that a lot, and it's never struck me in any particular way. But then I've been thinking like, oh, do I just need to see things of the same time to kind of understand what might have captured what captures people about it?
I don't know. There's those ones of like there's a lot of classical paintings and pictures that are like memes now, right? That people like send around the internet. So there's like one of a guy that looks like, I don't know, Benjamin Franklin. It's not Benjamin Franklin, but he's like looking really happy and smiling. And I think that was an artist that was unusual because they were self-portraits, I think, and he used to paint self-portraits of himself with all sorts of big expressions, like big smiles and laughing and things like that. Yeah. There's definitely like paintings of people laughing and smiling.
Right.
The more interesting one is photography, like all those Victorian era photographs. Because you had to stay still for photographs, people wouldn't smile in photographs because you'd have to hold for like 10, 20 seconds, and it's hard to hold a smile for that long and to freeze your face. And so
you can't fake it as well. It's like you start to not look very happy after a little bit.
Only Tom Cruise. There's great Victorian era pictures of Tom Cruise because he can just hold that smile. But they like that contributes to this idea of the Victorian era as being a really like uptight, buttoned down time when people were very dour and didn't smile and laugh, because that's the attitude people get from the photographs of the era. But it's, there's really beautiful, charming things that people have scanned and put online of like they're slightly blurry, but it's people cracking up, like it's like couples of that era, and the first image or the last image will be like them very stone-faced, but then in the middle they're like cracking up, and the photo is quote unquote ruined because they're blurry. But it's really sweet to suddenly see, it's sort of like colorizing old photos, and being like, okay, the past
like
wasn't
what
black
you
and
get
white.
now from motion photos, like where it captures a few seconds either side.
So that's all to say, I don't think it was unusual for the Mona Lisa to be painted with that little smile. But I don't know, like Leonardo da Vinci was very like aware of anatomy and people's, bone structure and muscular structure. And I wonder if there is something hidden or fun in the fact that he's, I wonder if it was intentional, that he's like trying to make it into this, maybe that was the equivalent of the end of Inception, spinning the little top, and it's like, is it a dream or not? Maybe this is like as good as you could get in the 1600s, 1500s.
Right.
Of like, is she smiling? No, she's not smiling. Water cooler talk.
Finding that exact balance point.
You seen that Mona Lisa picture? Is she smiling? No, she's not smiling. Yeah, I think she's smiling. There's a Michelangelo, the fresco, what is it? The creation of Adam on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, which is that famous one of
finger to finger,
Adam out, stretched. And if you Google that picture, the creation of Adam and the brain, have you ever seen those overlays? The way that the cloak around God is like a cross section of the brain, like that's pretty striking. I think. Because these guys were the ones that were starting to, dissect cadavers and things to really understand the structure of the anatomy underneath. Or, at least that's also what I would say if I got caught doing that. It's for the paintings. It's for the pictures. And then just distract them with, look at that one of that one smiling. Which one? That one.
Yeah.
I thought you said the smiling one. Yeah, that is the smiling. Is she? What? Yeah. Sorry, what were we here about again? I don't know.
Exactly.
Not these cadavers, but I shouldn't have mentioned the cadavers again.
Newton, you scamp. Well, I feel like Rob's going to reveal some deep truths to some of these paintings.
Yeah, we've got corner-to-corner lines, and that's giving us a bit more perspective of, like you said, the graph of vanishing points and perspective and things like that. Let's see what we find out.
Intersect right on the main focus of the picture, Christ's head. We'll split the painting into two We can see the way he's arranged the apostles on either side of Christ. There's 6 on each side, but look what happens when we put the intersections in. The first side goes there, and the second side goes there. You'll see that those intersections split the apostles into 4 groups of 3, very carefully placed. Where are their heads? Well, a horizontal line through all the intersections shows all the heads along it. And another line, halfway down, runs through the food on the table. We could go on and on. In fact, we could cover the painting with lines and show the construction. And it really is based on a grid as complex as that. Well, that's a painting some hundreds of years old, but more recent paintings, of course, use the same geometrical construction. And this one is a very famous one by Renoir. It's just been doing the rounds of the country and thousands of people have been to see it. It's the luncheon of the voting party. It's based on a rectangle, which is really overlapping squares. And the square on the right-hand side runs down through the pole of the canvas awning. The square from the left-hand side splits an area of dark off on the right-hand side of the painting. A line down the middle runs through another pole of the awning. Let's put the diagonals in. You start to see, underneath them, the centre of attention of the party, the table of food and drink. And indeed, 2 more parallel lines isolate the bottles of wine and all the good things to eat. And notice that the placement of the people around there is embraced by an ellipse that runs through the arm and up round the curve of the back on the right-hand side. Well, we could go on with that painting too, but you get the idea. A great deal of geometrical construction underlying its composition. The next time you're in an art gallery, have a close look at the paintings. You'll probably find the same sort of thing there if you look carefully enough. And that's a lot to do with composition. And to give you a bit of practice, here are a few.
I'm just getting a montage of frescoes and paintings with the grids drawn on.
I thought there was at least one. Thanks, Joe. At least one painting that does the rounds that still has the grid lines drawn in because it never got finished, but it gets exhibited with its lines in there. Not necessarily grid, but with its perspective lines and everything. Yeah.
Because Raphael had to hand it in at the end of the class and he didn't get time to use his eraser and
probably had to go and do something else. I
think you're right. There's definitely ones where you see. I find this stuff very impressive because I've never been a good artist and never was not good at drawing, not good at coloring in, not good at sort of anything that could be like realistic or anything like that. There is a little part of me that sees them draw these lines over these paintings and go, see, we draw a line here, we draw a line here. And you can start to see, and then I look at the line and it doesn't actually quite line up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I vaguely can see what you mean, but actually that line would go here and then here and then here, and then it would not look like anything.
Yes.
It's a little bit like when I was a kid and like you'd get told that's a constellation. And what is it? It's like, oh, that's like a lion. And you'd be looking and then they'd show you a picture in the book and then they like draw a lion over the top of it. You're like, I guess if you draw the lion over the top of it, it looks like a lion, but really that's just a bunch of dots up there.
I think there's a lot of things that I was taught young that were like that, where there was sort of an idea described, which is not in itself sort of fully right or wrong, but like this idea of composition. Like what Rob's saying here, I guess, is that, go to an art gallery and notice, like, here's something to take notice of. Here's a concept of composition, but I don't think it's, I think you could trick yourself into thinking or assume if you heard that it's like, oh, every artist is deciding either in advance of their picture what the composition, like they know the shape first and then they're going to fit everything to it. Or is it more like, with a lot of practice, and once you're already, a practiced artist, you will find that there are common tropes or shapes, and you want to have balance, or maybe you play with balance and imbalance in your picture. And like talking about perspective lines, I mean, obviously this isn't the case for all art. There's some that definitely play with this or deliberately have very realistic geometry to them, but the pictures that were shown in this looked like they were supposed to be realistic looking.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the perspective stuff is kind of obvious in a sense. If you think to yourself, oh, well, I'm going to have a table here and it's going to, and if you think of it, maybe it's easier to think of now when we have cameras on our phones and we know so much about cameras and TV. We see so much TV so we're always seeing shots set up from a perspective. We know a camera is set in a particular perspective and it's having a look at a scene. Maybe it would be more novel to try and think like that if you weren't exposed to
because I think if you see like medieval paintings and tapestries, they've got that really, like, that's how I would have drawn things as a kid, where it's like a castle and then a person and the scale is completely off.
They're
because
all on the same plane.
Everything's on the same plane, and then there's a river floating above the castle that's meant to be behind the castle, but I've just drawn it there, that, like, I do appreciate the leap, I guess the technological or the craft leap to then go to, oh, okay, yeah, I presume it's got to be, it's coinciding with understanding about light and optics and things like that is the same time as they're learning about, vanishing points and perspective and lines and some of those rules and stuff. I absolutely know it's like I'm the dummy. And then I look at this and then a fine art major would look at that and go, this is why it is the way it is. It's just that thing of, like constellations or jazz. Like, when Dan like has to explain jazz to me and I'm like, it's like when someone's explaining food to me or something like that. I mean, like, I get intellectually why this tastes good. Doesn't actually taste good to me, but I understand that it does and that I'm wrong for it not tasting good for me. The same way that with like certain complex jazz, it's like I'm not going to reach the threshold of understanding to be able to appreciate.
I saw
what's going on.
A symphony orchestra do some pieces at like a big fancy sort of show in San Francisco once, and they did a bunch that I knew of, or at least was vaguely familiar with the style of the music. I guess vaguely opera style, or like, I don't know, a bunch of names in Bach and Vivaldi, I don't know, like these sort of, I don't know,
showing off
Debussy,
now.
these sorts of names. I'm just giving examples of names. I don't know if these were the actual ones. But then they did.
I think that's Dan calling us now to correct us.
Yeah,
and
sorry.
This hasn't even gone out yet, and he's already calling us saying, guys, that's not. Yeah, Debussy didn't do opera. Yeah,
that's the fabric of the musical wavelength. Then they did a modern opera that they had written. Sorry, not opera. I should just say a classical piece, like a modern classical piece that they'd written, and it was
all opera to me,
really weird. And to me, like, I would use words like dissonant and, or it's very like painful on the ears and very long, and I didn't know what was happening with it. And the picture I had in mind anyway to sort of describe what you were saying is like I know that someone has gone on this long journey. They've reached the mountain, or they've gone to some far away land that no one's been to, and they've come back and they're telling the story.
Yeah.
And we just haven't been there.
Yeah.
But I believe them that they went there and that it was different and interesting. And you had to be there.
Exactly. And I think it's like there's different tastes, and especially like there's different, like I know there's like different chords or different beats that different cultures have kind of created that are not as familiar if you've got like a real vanilla ear of just sort of Western, and especially like modern Western music, which mine would absolutely be like so vanilla. But like then I can hear different cultural music and be like, oh, that's different to my ear, but I can appreciate this difference to it. And the leap doesn't feel as far sometimes as the sort of complexity of the dissonance of certain kind of challenging jazz. And then when it's explained to me, it's like, because what they're doing is they've trained so much that they could play so perfectly that now they're exploring this other place outside of the perfection.
Right.
And that's really impressive if you know what they're doing. But if you don't know what they're doing, then it's just noise,
Yeah, yeah.
But it's funny how music like that, like, because it can slip so easily in and out, or you can meet the music and then lose the music so easily. Like suddenly it can slip into something that's pleasant to the ear and then just pull away again. And is that purely just like the chords or the notes, or is it the rhythm, or is it that my brain is trying to fill in the pattern or predict the pattern, but then it suddenly wriggles out of the. I guess that's what all challenging art is trying to do, isn't it? Is trying to anticipate my pattern recognition and then subvert it and escape it and thwart it. But I could almost appreciate like punk music, which is just aggressively anti-audience or anti-listener.
Right.
And being like, almost like, we hate you for listening to us. There's something I can almost get about that more so than this sort of highly intellectual or mathematical kind of journey that other music goes off.
Ben really hates jazz, folks. Just kidding.
No, I think I like jazz in the same way that what I call jazz that I like, real jazz fans would look at and be like, well, that's not like...
Right.
I probably like the instant coffee version of jazz, and like the real jazz experts are like, oh my gosh, how can you drink that? Like,
I figure that's me with everything. I remember finishing high school maths and going to like first year uni maths. And in the first weeks, they were like, okay, you haven't done any maths yet. Like, we're going to teach you maths first in the first 2 weeks. Then we'll move on to the real stuff. And like, yeah, same with my tastes in food and film. And
it's basic, isn't it? That's the word. We're basic. I'm pretty sure that's what that word got invented for, was to describe sort of our sort of sentiments and tastes.
Yeah.
Hey, you can get a lot of pleasure out of a basic life, can't you?
Your sweatshirt says basics. Oh, no, it just says ASICs.
ASICs, yeah.
No sponsor, but.
Basic was that like computer programming language that they were using in the 90s. Probably predates the 90s, but again, looking back retrospectively.
Yeah, that's good. You were sort of my introduction to that. I know you sort of were toying around with that with friends at school.
Well, it was kind of fascinating because I guess now, I mean, you're a computer programmer and a computer, I've got such a fascination that I look at computers now almost the same way that I look at like a modern car engine, where like my first car I could kind of tinker with and I could fix and do bits and pieces to, whereas now like a modern car engine, just you lift it up and it looks like a computer, or it is a computer, and it's like there's a few things that I can do, but like the barrier, and I'm not like, obviously trained mechanics back in the day were also way beyond what I could do with my car, and trained mechanics now are way beyond what I could do with my car. So it's not that like the people that are in that industry are keeping up with the technology, but it does just suddenly seem sometimes like to program a modern computer or to try and. What's your take on that? Because like I guess we're constantly tinkering with our computers anyway, but we're tinkering in a very curated way.
Right. It's almost more, it's like
I can change settings and make it work the way I want, but I'm not like doing anything close to writing code or programming a computer where I could like dip my toe in with something like BASIC, which obviously was like meant to be entry level sort of, like programming for kids kind of thing back in the day. And that was like as far as I kind of got into making it write my name and add up numbers and make little games and things like that. Now though, with like, there's people making games and there's tools out there, and there's like Unity and things like that. Mm-hmm. Is that like what are the sort of things that are out there now? Is the barrier to entry for that kind of stuff the same as the barrier to entry was for like someone to go from nothing to BASIC back in the day, or is it actually different?
That's a good question. We have to get our brother Sam on to talk about that.
Well, he's an actual video game designer and maker, isn't he?
Specifically studying about game engines like that as well, and about their accessibility.
Okay.
But from my take on it is that it is easier now than ever. Like easier, I'd say, than it was back in the day proportionally.
Okay.
To jump on and create, I think, with more power. Than you proportionally could have had back then for the same effort.
Yeah.
The car is an interesting analogy because I think programming, the sort of, if you think of it as like ones and zeros, that it's like that's what's the lowest level you can get to. Yeah. And then there's sort of the processor instructions, which, if you've got like an Intel or an AMD processor in your, or an M3 in your Mac or whatever, something like that. that has a set of instructions that it understands.
Mhm.
And now those instruction sets are quite large. But I remember at university, as part of learning to code, they'd give you what's called a reduced instruction set computer. And that would just have very few, very simple commands. But and so when you were coding, you'd write code that needed to still be compiled down to sort of, ones and zeros or bytecode or whatever. But that gave a good insight into that really low level programming, and that's very difficult to do. It's like, if you think about a car that has computers in it or has very computer-like stuff in it, it's probably a little bit like with computer programming on an actual computer, in that it sort of builds on top of the last thing. So there are still people who need to work at the 1 and 0 level or the very low level, and still trying to do little optimizations with that or make that more power efficient or something like that. But then you just get black boxes basically. So then the next person up in the queue can go, oh, yep, I can just take that whole thing now, and then now I can do my part and plug in and play. So it's like adding levels now. So there's more options for where you want to jump in as well in the hierarchy. So it's like,
that black box thing blows my mind. Like again, podcasts about podcasts. I heard a podcast ages ago, and I'll explain to you how it made sense to me, and then you can translate it into the real technical what's happening. But they were talking about how a whole bunch of websites all went down all over the world on the same day, and it was because there was a piece of code that someone had written that did something very simple, like it just left aligned a table in an HTML thing, like on a web page. It was just a thing that you use to kind of quickly align something.
Okay.
And that sits in a library or repository and gets called.
Mm-hmm.
So that code doesn't sit itself in everyone else's web page. Their web pages just call on that code that sits on a server. How am I doing so far? Does that sound about right?
Yep.
And the guy that wrote that code got annoyed at the company that hosted, and I don't know if this was like GitHub. I think it was pre-GitHub or something like that. And he just pulled all his code. He pulled all his libraries off. But that was such a ubiquitous piece of code that it just broke half the internet in one day. And then they all these people had to go and kind of figure out what it was, and then I think they had to convince him to put it back on in the end. I don't think they could rebuild it because of the way it was built into so many things. Yeah. So what does that sound right? What would that mean?
Yeah. I hadn't heard that specific story, but definitely heard similar stories. And it's it kind of brings up an interesting philosophical question within programming, in that in some way, when you're learning to code, you learn foundational concepts, and you're taught to sort of build very simple things that have been built probably millions of times before. And then you're sort of taught to be okay, but when you're building your own things, don't try to reinvent the wheel. There's often very battle tested algorithms or code, all the way from very simple algorithm things up to very useful bits of programs that you just pull in as a library to your own code. Part of the issue with that, well, there's many issues. One of them is just licensing. So sometimes some of this code is it's very complicated licensing structure about what you open source. You might have heard terms like that, or what you can or can't then repackage in your own code, and how that impacts on domino effect use of code. But there's okay, I'll back up. There's Windows machines and Mac machines that you sort of work on yourself, and then there is Linux, which people may have heard of, which is
there's a penguin involved.
Yes.
Okay.
I think Tux might be his name.
Okay.
Yeah, Tux.
Didn't know he had a name. That's cool.
Yeah, I could be wrong on that, but Linux built.
I love penguins, so that's why I know that.
Yeah, it's good. Good mascot for it. Linux is most often used on servers.
Okay.
You can run your own Linux machine, but it holds together a lot of the infrastructure, a larger part of the servers and the stuff that you don't see when you're accessing the internet and all of that. But that is free and open source. So Linux is just a series of packages, things built by many different people working together. There'd be sort of a head person who checks and is leading the charge, but people can just put all sorts of bits of code in that. And that's, to be useful, that's built up on lots of little bits of code that, could be from anywhere.
Yeah.
When it comes to websites like you're describing, it's a philosophical issue at the moment where it's very common now to just find packages for almost everything that you're doing. You're like, I need my everything to be left aligned on this thing. I'm going to go find a package to do it rather than just write code that left aligns, that sort of idea. And rather than downloading that code yourself and having to worry about storing it and all of that, you just link to it. So there would be millions of websites that just have a hard link to some server somewhere. Like often it is GitHub now, but maybe back to this library it was somewhere else.
Just try and paint an analogy for me. Like it doesn't that doesn't surprise me philosophically, almost in the same way that all right, you're going to build furniture in a house and things like that. And how far down do you go? Like, we've been doing it for a while. You don't need to machine all your own screws and bolts, right? We're going to have certain sizes of those that kind of get mass produced, and we'll just buy them off the shelf. And even though we could question, is that the best size or length screw or whatever, we're probably going to use something that's been used a fair while and not question, is it the best one to use within, not exactly. Like, obviously, you're going to use certain lengths or whatever like that. But the exact tensile strength of this or that, it may not get questioned again. But is what you're describing the equivalent of, like, what happens if the screw at Bunnings that is the master screw suddenly gets broken, and then all the screws in every house that's been using that screw all just disappear?
Yes. Or if it's like you know that every screw you have is basically quantumly linked to one screw somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
And anything that changes that will also affect every other screw.
The person that owns that master screw decides to bend that screw at right angles because it works better for them. Then every other screw bends at right angles. Yeah. And then, But
it's a double-edged sword because maybe, and I don't know if a screw is going to be the best thing to go forward with this part of the analogy, but...
Is a double-edged sword a better analogy?
Yes. Okay. You've got a sword. No. If you've got...
What are these one-edged swords?
That's a good point.
How many swords? How many edges is a sword supposed to have?
Like a scimitar or something. This is one of those Wikipedia pages that I love going to, is like list of swords.
Oh yeah,
Must know the names and look at all the pictures
knowledge
of swords
from like video games that we don't need to have is like all the weird names of just medieval armor and swords,
or at least how they're spelt. I wouldn't know how to say a lot of them.
Yeah,
like Falchion.
What was that one?
Falchion. Falchion. I've never known how to say that one. Just as an example. Okay,
he's the guy that was in charge of COVID, wasn't he?
Dr. Falchion. Yes, double-edged sword there. So you've got a screw in your bit of furniture.
Sure.
So you've got 10 screws in there.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got
Flathead
the ones that, pardon?
Flathead or Phillips head?
Phillips.
Okay.
And
continue.
They find some issue with the master screw, and they can fix it. So they fix the master screw, and that fixes everyone's screws. So their furniture is now stronger from some.
So that's a good thing.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if that person just decides to pull that screw out of circulation is the wrong word for this analogy, but then all the screws in your furniture disappear immediately.
Yeah. Okay. So
the benefit is you could have built your own screws.
Yeah.
That way you're in full control.
Okay.
And you're not going to be as affected by other people's code changes.
Okay. So I'm guessing this is, from my naive mind, this is the obvious kind of existential problem with the Internet of Things, is everything being connected online. There's, I don't know, there's these kind of scare stories now where it's and I haven't actually fact checked these, but people, there'll be a clickbait thing saying that Mercedes is releasing a car, but the the top speed is locked behind a subscription paywall. So if you stop paying your subscription to, and sorry, I don't know if it's Mercedes or whatever, a car manufacturer with smart cars and things like that, you've got to pay for that. You know, you pay a premium for the seat warmer function.
Right.
So the hardware is there, but it's locked behind this license agreement or something like that. Which that's, I guess, one extreme. But the idea being that if everything starts to be connected, there's still that bottleneck that it's what it is connected to is physical servers, right? Like that's, you know, again, naive question, but like, you know, when everything's in the cloud, it's not ethereal like a cloud. It's like, it just means that it's sitting on distributed networks.
Right.
Right? I'm asking, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's accurate.
Okay. So how do we solve that problem? 3 sentences or less.
There's a couple of other interesting things to do with that in terms of like right to repair for devices.
Yeah.
So when you own your phone or your car or something like that, you've paid to own it outright.
Yep.
And it's something that you get use out of and might rely on. And so if it breaks, now there are a lot of like very anti-consumer methods.
We've touched on this with like Apple and John Deere, I think.
Right.
Yeah, being two of the major ones in the US. Yeah,
which I like. I'm interested in the part of that which also links to just homebrew culture of sort of, you know, being able to customize your things, or people who kind of like customize their own tools or their cars or things like that. Being able to, there's a really good spirit and culture in that I really like, that I feel like is very Curiosity Show adjacent of tinkering, like the tinkering mindset.
And should we be kind of exploring that with computers and phones and tech? Can we? I guess we can to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been maybe because I am a programmer, I've always liked having control, as much control as I can have, because I like to be able to get in and make things work the way I want them to work.
You're the Wozniak.
Yeah, I'm the Wozniak. Yes, I was Niak. And
I'm Tux.
Oh, you'd make a really cute penguin.
Was there a penguin Muppet? I think there was. I think there was a whole group of them that would dance. Yeah.
At least in the Treasure Island, I reckon there was.
Oh, yeah.
There was some penguins. Oh.
But yes, so you like the tinkering aspect of things. Well, I guess like, you know, Lego Technic, and there's all that sort of stuff still around. There's a lot of like, robotics kits and things like that kids can kind of.
That's great. Modern robotics and those kits where kids do get to program, but have something.
And they're teaching programming now in like primary school classrooms. So I guess that is it, isn't it? It's like trying to keep people engaged in, this is how you can learn the basics of this and then get deeper and deeper and deeper, so that you can kind of. That would be the great fear, wouldn't it? Is that we just, you know, get things are so black boxed, and then like a generation loses its knowledge of those black boxes.
Right.
You suddenly like either have to start again, or you're just beholden to things that you don't understand.
Right. Or beholden to very few.
Yeah. We all become kind of, you know, cavemen again with like computer overlords.
But we're in a weird space now, because with the like AI chatbots and stuff, now it's like people are Tony Starks, although that Tony Stark was supposed to be, he was the one who built it himself. So he had a lot of the information. He was very smart and tinkery type, but people can now probably go and try to build.
Right. Well, that's what I was wondering is,
with the system.
Do these kind of chatbots and AI maybe mitigate a little bit of that thing of like the person who then, and there's two ends of the spectrum, isn't there? The guy that pulls his code, or the girl that pulls her code from the internet and breaks the internet. Like that could be terrorism, or it could be rebellion, right? Against, you know, it could be legitimately someone is having their intellectual property or their work kind of exploited and not compensated for. And so then I guess maybe they have the right to kind of do that. But then I guess AI might plug those gaps, right? Where it's like, okay, AI can be a permanent fixing of, you know, just spitting out or replacing, or, you know, might get to the point where you just have an AI system that you're constantly tapping as the library for the thing you need.
Yeah.
so that every time a web page loads, it's just being generated on the fly by that AI or something like that.
And that is interesting about it, is that it's generating.
Yeah.
It's not a static, either bit of code or monolith.
Quantum computing. Explain that. 5 sentences or less.
I do love the videos on YouTube that are like, such and such describes quantum computing to 5 different kind of ages. And it would be like to a 5-year-old and to a primary school kid and then a high school kid. And
we could do it. We've got a cat here, right? My understanding is we put a cat in a box with a little bit of radioactive isotope and some poison. And then I put my laptop on top.
And then,
that's basically it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we check?
Yeah.
Or don't check? No, I forget now.
I think once you've decided whether you're checking or not, it's too late.
And is the cat smiling or not? Is the Cheshire cat?
Yeah, the Mona Lisa smile
Mona Lisa
of the Cheshire cat grin.
We're getting it in stereo. The cat went to your microphone and then to my microphone.
Yeah, the cat definitely heard what I was talking about and went to you there. Wonder why a cat became the thing in that anecdote of Schrodinger. I mean, cats are mysterious. I kind of get it, right? It doesn't quite work with a dog, does it? And
probably the same. And who was it, Schrodinger? Yeah, probably was just like annoyed with his cat and was like, how could I maybe kill the cat? I don't want to kill the cat. It's really annoying me right now, but sometimes I love it.
It's good marketing for that concept because you can imagine maybe, no shade to Schrodinger, this is totally hypothetical.
No shade to Schrodinger. That's a cool line. Let's put that in a song or something.
See, this is why we need merch. We need a no shade to Schrodinger t-shirt. You can imagine him pitching it though. Or maybe it was just his wife. It's like, so this is how I'm explaining it, right? You put the dog in the box, you put the poison in the box, you put the radioactive isotope in the box, you close the box.
And you shake it all about.
You take the Schrodinger and you... and then his wife's like, yeah. And it's like, and then you open it and the dog's alive. And she's like, oh, good. He's like, or dead. She's like, what? Yeah, or dead. That's the point though, isn't it? Like, she's like, yeah, just make it a cat. If you want people to actually focus on the point of this message, make it a cat. Because it's like, cats, people, that's the relationship people kind of have with cats anyway. It's like, I half like you being alive, but also I half am annoyed at you and wouldn't care if you didn't exist. And cats, that's pretty much their attitude to us.
Quantum cognitive dissonance. I did watch a video about quantum computing because that's something I've been interested in and have never really understood.
Yeah.
And I definitely did. I'll have to rewatch the video because I won't be able to relay it. But one little analogy that just did stick out to me and helped in terms of when I've come across the concept of quantum computing, I feel like people were like, oh, it'll, with a quantum computer, you'd be able to solve something that would take a standard computer millions of years. It would just be able to do it in like an instant. That sort of thing.
Yeah, that was the minor Y2K panic equivalent, was like quantum computers are just around the corner and they're about to break. What is it? RSA, or I don't know if that's still a thing.
Like encryption
kind of,
when you're on like secure websites.
Right, because that's to do with large numbers and prime factoring and things like that. Is that? Yeah, sorry. Yep. Listeners can't see my face. Hopefully I sound smarter because you just agree with me, but my face is like, is that right?
Yeah, no, that's right. The idea being that you can have sort of one-way encryption. Say if you're trying to encrypt the word cat, and you can, turn cat into numbers. So if it say simply it was, C is 3 and A is 1 and T is whatever that is. And then you do some operation on those numbers and get some other muddled up word that you can then send to someone.
Dog.
Yeah, exactly. And then they have a way to read that word. And the basic of it is that you generate 2 very, very large numbers that, at least when I learned at university, they need to be primes, like very large primes, but there might be different forms now that I don't understand. And you need to know both, basically, both parts. Right. And it would be incredibly difficult to just guess or to have a computer brute force try and find what the secret other number was that you need to.
So that's public key cryptography, is that right? Where the 2 numbers can be used to encode the message. And so anyone can have those 2 numbers. Not literally, but like as in that's what your computer's doing, right? Like,
right. I always have to reacquaint myself with it to remember exactly. But yeah, the idea with public,
because that's the stuff that's the little bits of the behind the scenes language that would pop up sometimes, like, down at the bottom of your web browser, you'd be clicking on something and it'd be like RSA or public key factoring or and you're like, ooh, there's some real science happening there on my computer. Yeah.
Well, it's quite clever, and it makes sense with why it's called public key cryptography, in that there's got to be one component of the encoding that's out there for everyone to use to say, all right, we all know this number, and I can use this particular big number to encode the text, but only the person who I'm sending the encoded message to has the other part that can unlock it.
If it was a real key, it's like, I'll give everyone in town this key, and it lets you lock a box to send something to me.
Right.
But I'm the only one that's got the key that unlocks the box.
Right, exactly.
Nailed it.
And so people were worried that quantum computing would be able to just very simply solve the other part of an equation. So you only needed one part of it, and you could just quickly find out the other part.
Planes would be falling out of the sky, and
all those left-aligned tables would just be
Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones would be robbing the Petronas Towers. And
which movie's that?
That's Entrapment.
I need to watch that
one.
I
feel like I remember being something like to do with Y2K, because just at the stroke of midnight, there was going to be a window where the computers had to reset, and so they were going to be able to rob all the banks or something.
That's a good way to build tension.
Don't know what that had to do with Catherine Zeta-Jones in a skin-tight cat suit going through lasers, but
yeah. Well, you got all the nerdy Y2K stuff for the ladies out there, and then Catherine Zeta for the boys.
People that like Welsh ladies in skin-tight cat suits.
Yeah. You said cat suit, and I was just looking at the cat, so I was trying to imagine.
You were talking about quantum.
Right, quantum mechanics. Thank you.
I'm really working hard to try and derail you, but you are very impressively staying on track.
So quantum computing, the analogy that I got out of this video was that it won't necessarily make anything just instantly computable, but that if you imagine like a right-angled triangle, and most of the time to try and solve something, if solving it means going from sort of one corner to the other, not the right angle part, but the other two nodes, the other two corners of the triangle. Can
you draw it over the Last Supper for me? That's the only way I understand these kind of
with a circle inscribed with a square as well. It's getting, and then you'd have to go along to the right angle and then up. So you'd have to go the long way, basically, not taking the hypotenuse. You have to go all the way left and then all the way up to solve the space. Yeah, I just have to watch the video. It's I see. I'm getting nowhere.
Can't see my face.
Yeah, I lost Ben. With it.
No, you didn't lose me. I fell off the train.
We baffled ourselves. That's what happened with no Brendan.
And I left the train to go and buy something from a fruit stand on the side of the road. And when I turned around, you were gone, and so was the whole thought process.
It was off the apple cart.
Yeah. I thought I was with you when you started going down right triangles, and then I remembered what we were trying to explain, and then I got very lost.
Yeah, it was a complicated video, and I didn't do a good job of describing it.
What you're saying is resonating with something that I think I understood, or I've recently recently learned, which is that it's not as magical a kind of fix for everything as people make it out to be, where it's like, quantum computing will solve everything. It's like a very specific set of problems, I think, that it can apply to. And even then, now you might know the language for this better than I do. So it's really for problems that you can already verify the solution to.
Right. With standard computers.
Yeah. So you put a problem into it and it gives you an answer out. You have to be able to know whether or not that would be the correct answer or not.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to, I don't know, the word I wanted to use there was like hallucinate. But that's kind of because of how AI chatbots, they're talking about them hallucinating. But because it's statistical, it will give you the wrong answer as well because it's quantum and it's all in like, superpositions and it collapses and it's only trying to give you it's going to collapse to the most likely version of an answer, but you still then need to be able to verify that.
Yeah.
So that if you know that was the wrong answer, you can go back and run the program again. But I'm trying to remember then what kind of problems that's referring to.
Right. It's I'm not sure exactly, but it's problems that you can encode in a certain way, and they almost have like you can represent them geometrically because and this is where I think I was going with the right angled triangle thing is if you imagine like a solution space with on a graph, so you got an X and Y axis and you're trying to find a solution.
I'm back on the train.
The quantum computer is doing things like maybe a spiral and it'll like collapse down to a point and like be like this. And then you can use your standard computer to check it. And if you were using a standard computer to try and find the solution, you'd have to check everywhere. Like you have to like go and all the sort of nodes to get there. Whereas a quantum computer can kind of take an arc that skips a lot of steps basically to get to that. So for whatever I just described then, for whatever
you can
pitch you had in your
tell
mind,
whether that was the right answer or not. Like it'll give you an answer and you can go, nope, that wasn't the right answer. Let's go again. Or you go, cool. All right. Now that's what you've given me, that yes, I can see that as the right answer, but I wouldn't have been able to calculate that quickly myself.
And the speed of the quantum computer is still not instant, though. It's just that it will take, because you'll have to do that a bunch of times, it'll still take time. And it really maybe brings it down from, having to go like that way and that way on a right angle triangle. I'm just showing in the sky.
Yeah.
A quantum computer can do
the sidey ways bit and the up and downy bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the technical terms.
I drew it in space and Ben is nodding.
Yeah. I see. I was so excited until you said that they're still not going to be instant. I'm like, yeah. And then I'm going to one day have a quantum phone in my pocket that's going to be like breaking the universe. And I'll be like, this takes forever.
Yeah.
Just load. I just want to look at the picture of the cat.
It makes me scared, but I think it's because when you say a quantum phone in your pocket, I think of like a nuclear submarine. And I'm like, it's like
in my pocket.
It's got like nuclear power inside it. I get the same sort of thing, alarm bell going off in my brain.
Yep. It'll have to have one of those little like, Iron Man nuclear reactor things.
Oh, yeah.
You said that the difference is that Iron Man made his own AI, made his own Jarvis, but that went pretty wrong.
Right.
That turned into Ultron eventually. And then also Jarvis just turned himself into Vision. And then the WandaVision show happened. So Iron Man, Tony Stark's not
a great person for us to be basing our...
I don't think so. Yeah.
Well, if you know anything about quantum computing, why don't you
put it in a box with a cat and then let us know if it is or isn't what you're going to try on your friends.